Teardrops, Tea, and Talk. I am Patrice A. Fonville Thomas, and I am the creator of Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart. It is a faith empowerment movement where we are helping you to become a better self, stronger through the power of positivity, forgetting those things which are in your past and pressing forward to your future. And on today, we're going to be talking about perseverance beyond the odds. Many of us in this life had to persevere. Many of us had to strive. Many of us had to struggle. Many of us had to push when we didn't want to push because we all have a story that we can tell. But on today, I have some people that are going to be coming and they're going to be talking about their story, how they persevere against all odds that were against them. When people counted them out, when people told them that they weren't going to be anything, when people done things to them that should not have been done. Yet and still, they got up and they pushed forward. I'm also reminded when I think about that, when Job said, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. So no matter what we go through in life, though the situation or though the predicament slay us, yet we've got to get up and we've got to push on and we've got to go on. Why? It's because every day keeps on going. Rather you're hurt, rather you're abused, rather you're upset, rather you don't forgive. Every day the sun is going to shine again. Every day the moon is going to go down again. So on today, I want you to sit back. I want you to get you something to drink. I want you to have your cup in your hand and let's get ready to talk. Talk about perseverance beyond the odds. I want you to like and share on today. Share and like and share and like on today. So if you know somebody who needs to hear this on today, because these testimonies are going to be powerful, I want you to get them and I want you to tell them to get on the Facebook, on Patrice Thomas's Facebook, or on Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart Facebook. Whatever your desire is, get on and hear us on today. So on today, we're going to get started. And the first person we're actually going to bring up is a young lady who has an amazing story, a brilliant young lady, and her name is Fatima Smith. And we're going to bring her on right quick. And while she's coming over, I'm going to let Fatima tell her own story because she won't be Fatima Smith very much longer. So she is a brilliant young lady with a future beyond expectation. She doesn't even realize what God's going to do in her life, but there's great things that he's going to do in her life. And I love this young lady to death. When I first see her, to life rather, when I first seen her, it was something about her that just attracted me to her. And then to know her story, it's amazing because many of us have encountered some of the same things that she's encountered, but we keep it closed mouth. Aren't we glad that there's somebody that got a big mouth that's going to tell it so that we don't have to go through, or if we are in it, we know that there is a way out. So Fatima, for about a good few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about you, and then we're going to bring everybody else on and we're going to go through the questions. So Fatima, just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your big day that's coming. I'm going to let you tell it because the smile that comes on your face when you talk about him is just simply amazing. So I'm going to let you tell it.
Oh, well, just thank you so much, Big Sis, for this opportunity just to be on this platform with you. I am so very eternally grateful for this opportunity. I don't count it robbery to be here. So thank you so much for even thinking about me and extending the invitation. Yes, so in just 5 days, I will be getting married to one of the best gifts God has ever given me. His name is that of Levon Howard. He is an amazing entrepreneur. He is an author. He's just a great leader for the community and for the young people. So in 5 days, I cannot even believe that in 5 days I will be married. Just a little bit about my story. I was in an abusive relationship for 2.5 years. Thank God for deliverance. You were one of the ones that knew kind of things that I was experiencing in my relationship. You always managed to encourage me. You didn't judge me. That's big. You did not judge me. You always, kept an open ear, and you always encouraged me like never before. I always say that you were one of the ones that actually pushed me to be greater and to know my worth. So thank you for that. But I was in a relationship for 2.5 years, out of God's will, doing, things that I shouldn't have been doing. And in that relationship, it was probably one of the darkest seasons in my life. I was beat on. I was called all kinds of names. I was disrespected, chased out of my house with a knife. I was punched in the face. It got physical, quite a few times, and even my family members had to get involved. So it was a lot. But I just thank God for His deliverance. I thank God for His love for me, because my relationship with God is truly what helped me get through that situation.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we're gonna hold out. So if anyone has any
Okay.
questions, we want to ask you to drop it in the chat also. So we want to get to some of your questions, but we're going to bring some other people on right now. The next person we're going to bring on, everyone knows I have one biological son who I love to death. So anybody who knows me knows that I love my son. So, but this next young man that's coming on, his name is Pastor Ryan O'Neal, and he's like a son to me. Ever since I've known him, he has been like a son to me. So we're going to bring Pastor. We're going to bring Pastor Ryan O'Neal on today, who is another young man who has an incredible story that he can share on today. And I'm just going to ask him to tell just a little bit about his story.
Thank you for having me.
Pastor
I'm so
O'Neal.
appreciative of this opportunity, and this is a momentous occasion for me. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for having me. I have been through. I think that over life, as we grow, we realize that we can go through so many different things in life. We think that we have just been there all the time. Like, I'm there, I got it. I think I have a good hold of this piece, and then something will come and knock you down. One of my biggest struggles that I thank God for deliverance for, I thank God that He's brought me through, was battling with depression. I didn't even realize that I had been going through depression. I didn't realize that I was walking around smiling and working and ministering and doing all of these things while in the background I was dealing with just being just down and out. But God just came in, and after I had finally hit what I thought was rock bottom, God came in, He delivered me. He sent me some wonderful friends. He sent me family members that just came, and they prayed with me. They laughed with me. They coached me. They helped me to get back into who Ryan really is. And through that, I got a chance to know Ryan, and not Pastor, but I got a chance to know Ryan and who I am as a person. And I'm grateful to the Lord, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to share a little bit of that with you today.
And that's good. One of the biggest things that we have to come to in life, we have to come to the moment to find out who we are.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times in church, we wear a lot of different hats. Let's just be honest. And we do a lot of things, and we've learned how to mask ourselves, and how when you walk in the building, you put on this big smile, like everything is just wonderful because you have this title. So, but the awesome part of it is when you can lay down the title and you can come to the reality of who am I? Because beyond anything else, who am I? Often I say this, and I think I've said it in our newsletter for March. I said, I'm always reminded of the mother at our church, Rosie Stewart, where she always says, do you know who you are? And when I hear that all the time, whenever anyone says that, it reminds me of her, because she says, not only on the outside, not what people say you are or who you are, but do you know who you are? And those are some very powerful words if you ever really sit down and think about what she was saying. So I'm internally grateful for her, because that was a deposit that she put into me many years that has followed me in. Awesome, awesome, man. The next person that we have is another young lady who I believe I've known her from birth until now. And she is another young lady who is just awesome. Awesome. She has great expectation that's going to happen in the kingdom of God. So we're going to bring on her, and she's going to tell a little bit of her story, none other than Victoria Reiner today. Hey, sis, how are you, baby girl?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. This is awesome. It is a way for people to get healed, and I'm all about that. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yes.
Part of my story, well, I was raped and molested for 10 years by people that I knew, members of my own family. people that I trusted. And it started when I was 6. From ages 6 to 16, I was being raped and molested. And it took me through a lot of changes, a lot of hatred towards people, towards myself. It opened up the door to me being promiscuous, and it also opened up the door to lesbianism. And I lived that life for a number of years. And one day, God began to deal with me about who I am. And he began to deal with me about why I went through all of the things that I went through. And him showing me that what I was going through wasn't for me began the process of my deliverance. It took me to talk about it. It took me to go to therapy. It took me to be honest with myself about everything that I was feeling, and knowing who God is, understanding that even though I was living the life that I was living, I still had to know who God was. And understanding that began the process of deliverance for me. So I am a living testimony that you can be delivered from homosexuality, that you can be delivered from lesbianism. And I had to understand that all of that of what I went through was for this moment right now. So I thank God for what he brought me through. I thank God that I am not in a grave. I thank God that I am not in a crazy house. I thank God that I am not where I could be. And I thank God for him allowing me to survive that. And I thank you for allowing me to share the story.
Awesome. So we're going to bring everyone on at this time. We're going to bring Fatima on. We're going to bring Ryan on. And Ryan and Fatima and Victoria. This is Ryan and Fatima and Victoria. I know y'all love the way I just introduce all y'all at the same time. So I am just elated to have all three of you as my guests on today. And the reason why I chose you guys is because a lot of times we focus on more people of my age, which is a very fine age. So watch what you say. But there are people that are millennials or even younger who are going through a lot in the church. I'm not even talking about outside of the church. I just want to focus one great second on the church. And a lot of things that you guys have discussed have been in the church. Hasn't been on the outside. These were not outside people that you were entangling with or encountering with, but these were people that are actually in the church. And the problem with the church, and the good and the bad, is that the church is supposed to be a place of healing. And yet, and still is the place of really tearing people down. So when I don't want, when I say the church, because I'm part of the church and we are the church, I'm not talking about physically the church building, because that's just what hosts the church people. So I want to make sure that that's plain. And I'm not even talking about people altogether, because I love the church. I love God, and I love the people of God. And that's who I'm called to, the part of being in the world that there's some that I'm called to do. But one thing that I want to do, and I think is so significant, is the healing process to take place. Because there is healing that needs to happen in the house of God. There are people who are my age, older, who have gone through so much in life, and yet and still they don't know who they are. And the reason why they don't know who they are, or they can't come, as I say, become a better self and stronger, is because they first have to identify with what happened to you.
Yes, that's right.
You first got to deal with you. You first got to say, like an alcohol has to declare, an alcoholic has to declare that he is an alcoholic. We've got to declare that we are hurt. We've got to declare that we were bruised. We've got to declare that there is some unforgiveness that lies on the inside of us. Yes, we're shouting. Yes, we're preaching. Yes, we're talking in many kinds of tongues. But yet and still, there is some unforgiveness that lies on the inside of us. And if we don't deal with that, we're not effective. And I you can challenge me on that, but you're not effective. Because there's no way in the world you can tell me how much of God is being a healer, but yet and still you can't believe to be healed for yourself. It's the same God. So on today, we're just going to talk a little bit. And I did send everyone some questions. I know you probably said, I'm going to kill her with these questions. No, where did she get them from? But it was just something to get you guys to start thinking, get you guys to start really identifying. Because a lot of times when you accept to be on a panel anywhere, many things that you are about to say, you're going to go through. You're going to think that you were healed, but then something else is going to arise. And something else is going to happen. So on today, we're just going to begin to talk, and we're going to unmute all of the mics so that we can all talk. And I'm just going to say, when we talk, when we hear someone else talking, we just want to be able to be courteous to one another. So the first thing we're going to talk about is patience, persistence, and pursuit. So when we think about those words, let's think about those words for a minute. Which one of those words describes your life journey, the journey that you had to take? Patience, persistence, or persistence or pursuit. Which one of those words? Anybody can start.
I will say for me, persistence. Understanding that persistence means to continue, to always go despite of or in spite of opposition. And the life that I lived, and growing up in the church, I had to continue to seek after God, even though I was in pain. And I had to seek after God, even though I at one point was feeling guilty because of everything that I've done, not even focusing on what was done to me, but focusing on the things that I've done. I had to continue to still strive to get to know God and still strive to be who God has called me to be. So for me, it was persistence. It was always moving despite of what I was feeling, always moving in spite of what happened, just keeping it moving, always, and going against my own self, going against what I was feeling, going against not wanting to get up in the morning, going against, wanting to go to those who did things to me, going against that, not, picking up the phone and saying, you did such and such and such to me, and now I want to do such and such and such back to you. I had to fight against that. So for me, it's persistence.
That's good, because a key thing with persistency out of all these words, and you chose it, was continue. Yeah. So you have to continue to go on in spite of the difficulties that you're feeling. You've got to press, you got to strive. And you said some good stuff. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. And sometimes you really want to go after that person and you want to say, can I just see you outside for just a few minutes? Okay. It's only going to take a minute. Yeah. So, so we have to but you even have to get beyond that feeling also. So that was a good one. So Fatima, what would be your word?
I think the word for me would most likely be pursuit. I want to say, even just throughout life, I've always been one to run after God. That's just always been me. But in addition to that, also running towards finding myself, really. Who is Fatima? Where do I stand in this world? Where do I stand, in my purpose? What is my purpose? I've always been one to kind of try to figure out, what am I purpose to do? What am I doing with life? What is my calling? What am I supposed to be doing? So I've always found in situations that I was in, me running towards something, and maybe it was running towards the wrong thing. I'm going to be very transparent today, right? I'm running towards the wrong thing, but in all of that, still trying to find who I am, and then recognizing who God says I am, and running towards what He says and who He calls me to be. So I would say it would be pursuit.
Okay. Awesome. And another thing that you did with pursuit is running after it. I mean, the key thing is that, when we want love, we run after love. And sometimes we find love all in the wrong places. Something that ain't even really good for us. but yet we think it's adorable. Could be Snaggletooth, but we think it's adorable when we're in love, or we think that we are in love. But when you come out of love and you look back at that, you'll be like, oh my God, he really is Snaggletooth. He really does not have any teeth in the front. What in the world was I looking at? But we are blinded sometimes where we are and what we're going through. Okay, Ryan, what about you on to this evening?
I think I will go with patience, because one of my biggest things for me is when I see something that I want, I can go after it, I can do it. But sometimes some things require you to just wait and put a real plan in place. So often I think, just even with life, I even think that with me starting my church, I was like, you know what, Lord, I know this is what you've called me to. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump up, and I'm going to get ready. And for about a year or so, we were active but not active. And the Lord was saying, you had to wait. This is what I called you to do, but you had to wait for the time to be able to go forward and do what it is that I'm putting you to do. And now we're reaching more people than we've ever reached when we were in that season of silence and in that season of waiting. So I think that patience is one of the biggest things for me. One of my favorite scriptures as well is, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. It's one of my favorite scriptures, Isaiah 40:31. But it's so true, because whatever it is that God has given you to do, whether it's getting to know yourself, whether it's breaking out of toxic situations and toxic relationships, some things is not about, let me just get up, pack my stuff and go right now. Some things is about, I have to wait for the right time, because you can leave situations that you're not supposed to be in. And if it's not the right time, you're gonna go right back and find yourself right back in that same situation, or back in another situation that's just as bad. So I think I would go with patience.
Out of all three of you, you chose three different words. So, and all the words are so significant in it, because patience is so significant in everything that we do in this life. Because if we run ahead of ourselves, which sometimes when we're running after what we want, we run ahead of ourselves and we end up in a situation that is not a good situation for us. We end up in toxic relationships. We end up in doing things that we ought not to do, because we went ahead of time when we should have just sat back, which is the most hardest thing in the world to do, and just chill. Sit back and just have a woosah moment and just relax, but relax in the Lord. So that a lot of times we say that so fluently out of our mouth, but the actual action of that is not fluent, because God's timing is not our timing. And that's something that we all have to understand, and being in the body of Christ and being in God's will for our life is not anything that's easy. Let's just be honest, because you see everybody else that's doing and prospering on the other side. And yes, we do need to take our eyes off of people, but in the human part of us, we still see people. So we have to be honest in what we do. We are part of Christ and we are a new creature in him, and we go after things of him, but our physical being, because we are in the physical being and in this world, we view people. So that's a good thing. So we're going to move on to the next question. All of them are just awesome questions. So when you think of perseverance and you think about the point of it being impossible, I think I put down a quote that someone said, perseverance is impossible if we don't permit ourselves to hope. And let's talk about that for a minute. What are your views on it? So do you think there's a difference between faith and hope? Hope or hope? Ryan, I'm going to start with you. And we're going to try not to beat up on you as being the only man on here tonight. So we're going to be lenient with you. So is there a difference in faith and hope, or does faith and hope work together to bring about the greater good?
I actually believe that they work together. I think that faith, scripture teaches us faith is the substance of things that are hoped for. It's the evidence of things that we really can't see, right? Faith to a believer is tangible proof that we can have, or that we can do whatever it is that God's telling us that we can have and that we can do. So while I may hope for good things to happen, I may hope that I can get a promotion, I may hope that I can go to the car dealership and get a car, I hope for all of these things. It's my faith that walks me through the door. It's my faith that's tangible, that walks me through the door and says, I can have it because God told me that I can have it. So I think they're both synonymous to me.
Okay. So any one of you ladies want to jump in and say anything with regards to that?
Um, I think hope and faith, I do believe that they work together, but I do think that they come from different places. I think for hope, when you hope for something, I believe that there is still some doubt in hope.
Mm,
I think that you're hoping like, maybe, like I hope it'll, change maybe, but faith is I know. Even though I can't see it, I know that it's going to change. I know that it's going to be different. So I do think that they coincide. Like you have to hope in order to have faith because it has to start somewhere. You when you're in situations that you know that aren't where God wants you to be, and you're living a life of fear, and you're living a life of confusion, you will have to move in fear first. So you have to hope for better. And then God will, allow you to go through the process of hope, where you're in a place of, well, maybe, well, God, I think I hear you, or God, I know you're there, but I don't know yet, till he gets you to the place where it's like, okay, God, I know that you are, and I know that you can, and I know that you will. So I do believe that they go, hand in hand, but I think that they just come from different places.
okay. Fatima, do you want to add anything in?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Victoria. I think that it I will sum it up as to say it's like the prerequisite. You have to hope that things will happen, but without the syllabus, or without the common denominator, which is faith, right? You won't see yourself through it. You won't be able to complete the course because just with hope alone, I mean, you can sometimes feel not want to complete something, or you don't. I think faith is what will keep you going. Like, it'll keep you on the track. It will keep you on track and saying, okay, I see the end goal. I know there's an end goal. I don't necessarily even really believe that I can reach it, but I think that's where your faith, whatever your faith is in, or whoever, when you activate your faith, it will give you the push to continue on the journey.
Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, in what you're saying, yes, because what faith often do, hope lets you think that whatever it is, don't let you think. Hope declares that whatever you want shall come to pass. But faith declares that I have faith. I have a tangible God who's going to give me exactly what I ask for, as long as I continue to have that full assurance in my heart to Him. So faith tells me that it can happen. It will happen. Hope tells me that somewhere down the line it will transpire. But faith declares that I know that it will happen, and it can happen today. It can happen tomorrow because of who I trust in and who that I believe in. So awesome. So when you begin to look at the various things that you ladies and gentlemen have talked about that you went through, how was faith and hope helping you to get out of your circumstances, to get out of your situations?
I'll start. So for me, honestly, I just thank God for God because literally in those situations, which I'm going to be transparent again, I put myself in those situations. And I think that, when you recognize that, you know, certain things you just have to be willing to admit, that you need to change in order for you to be delivered out of something. You have to recognize that you need to change. So for me, my faith, born and raised in the church, right? And I developed a relationship with God at a very young age, but it wasn't until I was an adult that I actually truly understood what relationship meant. Relationship to God and my faith in God truly allowed me to tap in to stuff, something that I didn't even see within myself. Like, I was in such a dark space within my, situation, that I could not even, there were some days that I didn't even want to get up. I didn't want to get out the bed. I didn't want to do any of those things, but it was the faith inside of me and the God inside of me that allowed me to recognize, you know, I you have greatness inside of you, daughter, and you don't see it right now, But the praying, being the praise and worship leader, going to church, listening to the word, all of those things really attributed to my deliverance. And if I did not have God, if I did not have him, and if I didn't have the faith in the relationship that I had with him, I honestly would be right in that situation. I am 100% sure that I would still be in that situation that I was in, comfortable. So I think that faith for me, it was a push. It was a daily push, but it was also a comfort, right? The Bible talks about God giving you the Holy Ghost, and he's a comforter. So having the comforter to really be there and to intervene for me really truly allowed me to find inside of me what God already said about me. So if I didn't have that, I truly would not be here today. And I stand firm on that.
Okay. Awesome. And we're going to stay on that topic for a moment, but I'm going to throw out two words that Fatima used. She used relationship and comfortable. And I want one of you, either Ryan or Victoria, to talk about that in your situation. Talk about the relationship. Talk about the point. Were you really comfortable or were you uncomfortable?
Comfortable. I was comfortable in what I was in because I justified it. I justified it with what I went through. It was like, well, at this point, it's like, well, I was raped and I was molested and all of that. So I'm what you want me to do? God, at this point, I'm not even thinking about you because I'm justifying my mess. So I was very comfortable in what I was doing. And when you say relationship, do you mean my relationship with God or the relationship that I was in? Because
both on both lines.
Okay, well, my relationship with God at that point, he was always there, but I wasn't. So at that point, me and God, I didn't see God in any of that at that time because I was comfortable in justifying my actions. I grew up in church too all my life. I'm a bishop's daughter, and I knew God. I knew what was right from wrong. I always knew it, but at the time, I'm like, I'm not even listening to that because of this. How can I? Why would I believe a God or trust in a God that allowed that to happen to me? That was my mindset. So at that time, my relationship with the people that I was dealing with was what it was. I put those relationships above God. Me and God was not. I wasn't thinking about him at the time. And then once I got older, and when they say you train up a child in a way that it should go, and when it gets older, they won't depart. That is so true. Because as I got older, God began to talk to me. And I would be like, he would talk to me through my dreams. And I'm like, Lord, I know you're trying to talk to me, but I really don't want to deal with you. But he would still talk to me, and he would allow me to view myself. And once he began to do that, it changed everything. So for me, it was the relationship with God. It wasn't there first, but eventually it got there. So yeah.
That we really don't want to talk about a lot of times when God is dealing with us, we get to the point until we say, well, God, I'm not trying to deal with you. So if we really be honest, and once again, we're unloosing our masks on today. If we really be honest, we get to the point and tell God, I'm just not trying to hear you right now and what you have to say. And because a lot of times we are at a comfortable place in our mess. So we get to the point until we're comfortable in our mess and what we're doing. We try to justify, as you say, because of so much that has taken place with us. God, didn't you see this that happened to me? Didn't you see what this person has? And one of the things that God makes me laugh about, you can go to God and you can say, well, God, this person hurt me. They did this, they did that, they did the other. And God goes back and say, okay, so what did you do? Or I'm going to deal with you. And you be like, Well, wait a minute, hold it. I really didn't come to you about me. I came to you about Brother Joe Bob. And yet, and still, God deals with you. And the awesome part of when God deals with you, he deals with you so you're prepared to be able to deal with anything else that comes your way. He corrects the things on the inside of you to prepare you for the next journey that you have to take. And that's something that I had to learn in my life. I'm like, well, but didn't you see this? And God was like, yeah, I seen it. But yet and still, I come to deal with you. Well, what about them? What about them? And I think that's something that we all have to swallow. So, you said something, we get comfortable because we justify what we do. We justify what we go through. We justify why we are. We justify why we can still sit in the house of God and do what we want to do because if someone did something to us or because someone said something to us. We justify it. But when it's all said and done, what is God saying about the circumstances? And what is God saying about the situation? Better yet, what is God saying about us? Have we really devalued ourselves to the point until we're justifying the mess that we're in? Or do we get to the point until we think of ourselves at a different level, in a different place, who God has created us to be and to get past it? Ryan, you want to add anything into that?
Yes, I think for me it was dealing with depression. I think that dealing with depression, first of all, as an African American man and someone in the church, it's not something we talk about often, and it's not something that is very popular to really acknowledge. Hey, bro, you need to go see a therapist. Hey, sis, you need to go sit down and talk to somebody. So for me, I walked around for years depressed, not realizing it or not necessarily understanding what it was that I was dealing with. And so it was so much so that some of my friends would say, I see different sides of you. Like I see a side of you here, but I don't see this side of you when you're with this person. And I see this side of you here. And I've gotten so comfortable with hiding everything that I have been going through and hiding behind this mask. I was able to swap masks just very quickly. Put the church mask on, take it off real quick, put the other mask on, take it off real quick, put this mask on and flip the other one. It was so easy to do because after everything was said and done, I had to come home and really realize, Ryan, you need to fix this. My mind at some point said, I can't keep doing all of these different masks. At what point are you just going to be you? And I turned to God and I said, God, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this place that I'm in? Because I'm hurting, I'm scared. I couldn't even put all the words together to tell God really what it was. I was literally surrounded mentally and emotionally in darkness and fear. And I had to literally call on the Lord and say, God, you have to save me. Because if you don't bring me out of this, there's no way I'm going to make it. There's no way I'm going to make it. Like I'll never forget. There was one night that I was really ready to just end it all, and I just said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. It's just easier if I just wasn't here. And I was ready to send out goodbye text messages, to all of my closest friends and my family. And all of a sudden, I got one text message out to my mom telling her how much I loved her, how much I appreciated her. And she happened to be up at 12 o'clock at night. My mother's never up at 12 o'clock at night. She happened to be up and she got the message. And then all of a sudden I fell into a deep sleep, as opposed to doing what it was that I wanted to do to end it all. I fell into a deep sleep and I woke up. I had a roommate at the time. My mom was banging on the door. I was asleep so hard I didn't even hear her banging on the door. And I opened my eyes and she was just standing over top of me saying, like, what is going on? What's happening? And for me, it was at that moment that I realized, if there's no other deliverer, if there's no one else that can bring me out of this, it's going to take God to break this chain and break this cycle that I'm in. Because I would go through cycles. I went happiness and sad. And then again, with the mess and everything, it took God and my relationship with him where he finally had to sit me down and say, Ryan, yeah, you're depressed. Yeah, you're going through this place, but when are you going to trust me with the hurting parts of your heart? When are you going to really let me get in there and deal with your heart so that you won't be in this place anymore? So I think that's where my relationship came from. It wasn't necessarily that I had gotten comfortable with all of the different masks, because I became a pro. I became a real pro at wearing different masks and hurting and while hurting. But my relationship with God finally kicked in, and God said, when are you going to trust me? When are you really, really going to trust me with everything? And it was at that moment that he was able to really deliver me.
God just cares so much about us that in the nick of time, he will send something or someone to speak life to you when you're dying. Isn't that just awesome how he just does that to allow us to know that there is still purpose in us, no matter what you go through, no matter how difficult the situation may be, no matter the pain, no matter the unforgiveness, there is purpose that's inside each and every one of them. And we're not done until God says we're done. Life is not over until God declares that it's over. But just when we get to the point that we're about to give up, God will send that angel to say, you've got to live. You shall not die, because I've got greater works inside of you to do. And what kind of God is that people won't serve? A God that cares so much about us, a God that loves us when we don't even love ourselves. We don't even count ourselves as being anybody else, but yet and still God counts ourselves as being something else. So there was one comment that says, we've got to get to the point until we're able to confess one another without judgment. Without judgment. And a lot of times we don't divulge what we're going through because we're afraid. We're scared. We're scared that we're going to be judged. And let's just talk about that for about a good 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just talk about the whole point of us being afraid, scared. The whole point of judgment, of why we didn't want to come out, why we didn't want to tell anybody exactly what we're going through before we go into the next segment of coming out. Let's just talk about why we didn't want to tell anybody. You know, what was it that we could not open up our mouth and divulge? Anybody want to start?
I can start. I think that one of the biggest things for me was being able to acknowledge, one, that I was really depressed. That's one of the biggest things, is being able to acknowledge it. But I think that sometimes when you confess those things to some people, they don't understand, or they don't acknowledge that they might be dealing with it themselves. So and for me, it was like I was like a wounded child in a sense. You know, if you ever broke your leg or broke your arm or broke a bone, you don't want anybody to touch it except for you, because that one part of you is hurting and you don't trust people to handle your hurting part, right? And so I think for me, when it comes to being able to just say, yeah, I'm depressed and I need help. And you know what? Ryan today is not okay. He's not okay today. It's like you open yourself up and you expose yourself to people who really might not be true. You open yourself up to people that, and you put yourself in a vulnerable position to either A, be able to minister to somebody, to be able to say, hey, look, God brought me out. He can do the same thing for you. Or B, put yourself in a place where you're talking to someone who really doesn't have your best interest at heart. So it's like there's so many people out there that are doing the same thing I was doing, switching masks and swapping masks. And they don't really know how to do it. And they just say, oh, I'm here for you, bro. I'm here for you. And then they go around and they say, well, you know, Ryan, he's dealing with this, that, and the third. And I'll never forget, I trusted one person with what I was dealing with. And I told her what was going on. And next thing I knew, it came time for me to get a promotion. And when they called her for a recommendation, she says, well, you know, he's not stable mentally. And that hurt me, that crushed me. And it made me say, you know what? I don't care who is who and what is what. I'm shutting everybody and everything out. So I think a lot of times it's yes, it's judgment, but a lot of times, depending on what your situation is, you just don't want to get hurt again. And you feel better just being behind your own wall and dealing with it's just me and God behind this wall until I can come out from behind, until I'm strong enough to come from behind it again.
Okay, Victoria, talk about transparency for a moment. So, you know, a lot of times we throw that word around in the body of Christ so much. And it makes me wonder sometimes when I hear people talking about, well, be careful who you're being transparent with, or don't be transparent, or you can't be transparent. And I wonder sometimes, do they really know what transparency is? Do you really know what it is?
Right. Transparency is being honest with who you are. Transparency is not being afraid to say, I'm not perfect. That's what transparency is. Transparency is saying, yeah, I love God. And I'm talking about just right in the church right now. And the church is saying, yeah, I love God, but I have issues. And I'm not afraid to confess that I have issues. Mm-hmm. And that's what transparency is. It's just being honest, not feeling like you have to put on a mask, feeling like you have to portray this perfect thing that God didn't even require. Like, he didn't ask us to be perfect. He didn't say, I need you to live a sinless life. If that was the case, why would he send his son? What would be the point? So, but I'm not going to go there. To answer the question, transparency is simply being honest and saying, yes, I love Jesus, but I have issues. And not being afraid to share, being able to look at another person and see you can see that they're going through the same thing that you've gone through, and being able to say, sis or bro, listen, I could tell you how you can, come out, because I've been there. I see people that I've seen in church, I can see the spirit of lesbianism on them, or see the spirit of homosexuality on them. And sometimes God would, allow me to, yo, bro, yo, sis, I've been there. And they would look at me like, for real? Yeah, I've been there. And it may seem hard now, but it gets easier. That's all it is. Just being honest. That's what transparency is. And it helps.
That's awesome. I like what you said. It's the point of being honest. And one thing, when God has truly delivered you from something, transparency becomes easy to you, because you're not concerned what the other person has to say or think. When you know that God has delivered you from something, when you know that God has brought you out of something, it doesn't matter to me what A says. It doesn't matter to me what B says. It doesn't matter to me what C even sees or think that they see in the spirit when they're not in the spirit. What matters to me is that God is a deliverer. And just as he has delivered me, he's able to deliver you. But let me pull you to the side and give you some nuggets that can help you in your process of deliverance. I think when we become to the point that we realize that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers, and it takes all of us in order to make it in and to build the kingdom of God, I think we begin to see things in a different perspective. I think we'll begin to see things in a more thing that, how can I help you? How can I bring you out of what you're in? What words can I say? And then while we're talking, say, God, give me the right words that can minister grace to the hearer of it. I think a lot of times that's what we need to do. So let's go to you, Fatima, for a moment, and let's talk about the whole point of why, or how do you think, transparency can help you? What was it? Were you afraid? Were you scared? What was it? Or were you just concerned about what people, because we are concerned about what people think.
Yeah. So mine was a little different. So I struggled with two things. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want people to know that I had an issue, right? I was shamed. I was shamed for what I was in, knowing what I knew, having a church background, knowing what the Bible says about, sex before marriage and all of those things. I carried a sense of shame, so I was afraid of saying something. And then I also, not even just being afraid of what the church people said, but even certain family and friends. My family and friends didn't know. Certain friends knew, but a lot of my family did not know what I was experiencing. And that's because I tried to hide it for as long as I could. And I also, felt guilty for even, I would feel guilty sometimes for even wanting to share what I was going through. So sometimes I never even did because I didn't want it to be about me. It just became my thing, right? Like it's my thing. I didn't want to be a burden on someone else. But I think it was at the point where I knew that I had to come out of this situation, and I knew that God wanted me to come out of it. Is when I started. He granted me the opportunity to start sharing my story. But I think the biggest thing for me was shame. Fatima, you went through that, having that, and then having people feel sorry for me, and which is a lie. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to deal with it. Like, you're not supposed to be in that situation. You're not supposed to be hit. So the enemy tries to lie to you, right? You will want people to care about what care for you and care about you. So that was my biggest thing, and I think transparency for what made me. I think the moment that God gave me the okay to even share my testimony, it was in church. I shared my testimony. I think that was a huge relief, because here I am dealing with in my head how people was going to receive me, and it was the complete opposite of what I thought, what I told myself and what I allowed the enemy to tell myself. Um, and so that made that made my transparency moment and the ability to share my testimony a little bit easier. Some people don't have that same story. Some people share testimonies and they are manipulated. I didn't have that testimony. I really truly had genuine people that cared and prayed me out and helped me. Listen, how can we help? What can we do to get you out of this situation? I literally had people that was in my corner. So my story is different. But I think once I was able to share my story and share my testimony, it even allowed me to see, and it allowed the blinders to come off of my eyes. Like, why are you dealing with this? Because when you're in the situation, you think that you're deserving of it. You think that when you're in your dark season and when you're dealing with your trauma and your struggles, you blame yourself. And of course the enemy has a whole playground to play with in your mind when you're dealing with these situations. But once you start speaking and declaring certain things and start holding yourself accountable, you start to see yourself in a different, like you kind of check yourself a little bit, like, wait a minute, you are better than this, you don't deserve this. And I think that being transparent, that's what it helped me to be, because now I had, not only was I holding myself accountable, but other people was like, Fatima, you're better, you're worth more than this, so people started pouring into me by my transparency, and they started holding me accountable, because now it's like, okay, I'm not just dealing with this on my own anymore. Now I have a community of people that they want me out of this so bad, and because they know my story, it's like, and it's not even to say that I was trying to please them. No, it's the Lord allowed those people to kind of speak into me and to help me with finding my worth and knowing who I am in Christ and knowing the calling that God has in my life. It was sort of kind of like my transparency opened the door, for people to say, to pour into me and to pour, back what I felt like I didn't have, what I kind of was running away from. Because I think I got to the point in my situation. Well, I thank God that I didn't get to this point, but some people do get to this point where they run away from God. And I thank God that I didn't get to this point. But I do remember being at a moment in my situation where I was just like, I was so comfortable that I was really okay with just staying there. Like, I really was okay with it. And till this day, I truly, even how everything just changed in my life into where it is now, I truly just thank God for deliverance, because had I not listened to that voice, and been obedient to God and to share my testimony, I promise y'all, I would not be on this platform right now. And so I just thank God for transparency, because transparency for me helped me see, and help me gain my worth and know who I was and what I didn't deserve.
Awesome. So it's a point of freedom, I think, for all of us. So, and when you confess things and put it out in the open, what you're really doing is you're taking it out from the inside of you and you're giving yourself more space, more open. You're liberating yourself, in other words. So I want to ask, like, Ryan, I'll start with you. What is something that you think could help the body of Christ altogether in this generation or in your generation when it comes to deliverance from depression, or when it comes to being able to have a squad behind you, so to push you into the next level, that's cheering you on for deliverance? How do you think that we could go forward in the body of Christ, being able to be a helper and not a hindrance?
I think that one of the first things is telling people that it is okay to go to therapy. It is okay to go and talk to someone. And that one person that you need to talk to is not necessarily your pastor. It's not necessarily your bishop, who may be trained adequately in Christian therapy. But but sometimes I'll be very honest. I had a Christian therapist and I fired him. I fired him because I felt like I was going there and all he was giving me was scripture. I know the scripture. I know it backwards and forwards. I don't know everything, but I know a lot of it. So, but I'm not here for that. But I think that being pro therapy and being able to just acknowledge that that depression is a real thing.
Yes,
it is a real situation that everyone is dealing with on the regular basis. You don't have to look down on someone because they're depressed. You don't even have to always be like this shoulder to cry on because they're depressed. You just have to sometimes just be there. There were times when I called my best friend and we didn't have to say anything. I just needed the ear. I just needed someone to just be there and be there to be my support system. And I thank God for my friends. I have a very tight-knit, close group of friends. And my tight-knit, close group of friends, they are the ones that are in my corner all the time. They're my cheerleaders. When I'm going through, I know that I can call them and they can hear it in my voice and instantly begin to encourage me and push me. But I think as in the church overall, we have to be that friend to our brother and our sister. We have to be that one that pushes them and lifts them up and deposits goodness into them, deposits positivity into them, and also encourage them to go and get some help.
Awesome. So Victoria, my question for you would be, how do you become a better, stronger you? What was the process? Who was there as your squad or your cheerleader to push you to become the better, stronger you?
The way I became and still is becoming a better, stronger me is doing what I'm doing right now, which is talking, getting it out, because I had to understand that what I dealt with was trauma. It was trauma. And it was hard for me to even say that I was raped. Like, saying those words it was hard to do. So I had to come to that realization that, yeah, you were in a traumatic experience for a lengthy time. So when those moments where you feel that depression creeping up on you or whatever, you have to just talk about it, just talk it out. So talking about it, praying, and who I had in my corner is my husband, who thank God for. My husband, my mother. Oh my gosh, that woman. If it wasn't for her and Jesus and my husband, I would not be sitting right here right now. Okay. He used my mom being a woman of faith to love me in spite of what I was living. Because I had the thought of, well, the church is going to judge me anyway, so what's the point? That's why I left the church. I left the church because I already had a mindset of, well, they're going to judge me anyway. So let me just go and get out and live my life. My mother loved me through, and God allowed me to see the love of him through her. So having her, I had certain, wasn't all that great, but the core, my mother, my brother, my father, my husband, they were my squad. I had some other people who I will name. My spiritual brother, Dion. I had some really just strong people who, if I had a moment of, where the, you know, how the devil plays with your mind and those thoughts come back up again, and then I'm getting angry all over again. I had a moment today. So being stronger and better is being able to admit that today I'm not okay. You know, not being prideful and allow myself to just soak in it and not want to deal with what I'm feeling and not wanting people to know how I feel. That didn't help. So to me, being stronger is being transparent. Being stronger is being open. Being stronger is admitting. And yeah, so what I'm doing right now is how I was, and how I will always continue to be stronger. Talking about it and being honest.
And my question for you, Fatima, is when you go through a relationship that you've been abused, and a lot of times, you know, as women, we would have a tendency, and abuse is in a lot of different ways. I want to put that out there, because a lot of times people look at abuse and think it's only physical abuse. There is mental and there's emotional abuse also. So, you know, I think a lot of times, because we focus on the actual hit, we miss the point that emotionally you can be wounding me when you don't love me the way that you're supposed to love me when you're in a relationship with me. So now I'm abused. You know, there's mental abuse when you're always speaking to me, and you're speaking to me as in downgrading me, and you're never lifting me up. You never see the beauty that I am as being someone that's in a relationship with me. So now you're mentally abusing me, because if you're constantly hearing words of negative words spoken against you, it'll begin to seep inside of you. So rather, you're the strongest person in the world, if you're constantly in a relationship with someone who's supposed to be uplifting you, who's supposed to be covering you, who's supposed to be loving you, and also speaking to you as negativity, it'll begin to soak in. So Fatima, my question for you is, how were you able to recover to get to the point now that you're about to be married on Thursday to the man that you love together? So how did you move from being abused, and I can imagine never wanting to put your eyes on a man, to the point until you are where you are?
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That's so much to unpack, but I'll keep it short. Honestly, you have to love you. You have to find the love within yourself. Know that the situation that you were in, it was nothing but the devil. My relationship with my ex, it was very traumatic. It was physical, mental, and emotional. And me staying in that situation stemmed from, you know, the lack of love that I had for myself, lies that the enemy told me based off of certain relationships from even people in my family, you know, that spoke that bad to me or spoke towards me, just generational curses of things that were spoke over my life, which then allowed me to, you know, endure those relationships in my adulthood. So for me, you know, finding the love for yourself, literally getting to the point where you can, and not, you know, not a cockiness, but getting to a point where you say, I am enough. I deserve better. You know, I am beautiful. You know, I'm the bomb at the end of the day. Like, literally, I'm the bomb, because, you know, when you're in those situations, you do forget that. You do forget, you know, and it's so crazy how the devil works. But, you know, even in my situation, and even in that abusive relationship, and the devil was lying to me about so many different things. I had a degree. I had a great job. You know, I had friends that loved me, family that loved me. Like, you know, on paper, I look good, but I forgot, you know, so just getting back to who you are and loving yourself. And then also trusting God and knowing that you're delivered. Like, literally, when you're delivered, you're delivered. There's no shame. I'm not, you know, I don't hold, like, I'm not my past. And I want to add too, it doesn't, your deliverance, for some people, it takes, it's years, over years, right? But God can do it just like that. Me and my fiance are getting married. We met during the pandemic. We're getting married on our year anniversary of knowing each other. God can do a quick thing. He can do a quick work. Okay, I want to encourage all of you, you know, that are in situation. It doesn't, deliverance is real, and it can happen right away. There has to be work that has to go into it. You know, and meeting my fiance, he introduced me to some people that I can talk to. Going back to what Pastor Ryan said, getting that counseling and really talking to people, because I can honestly say, thank God, I didn't have to go through the therapy to find my deliverance and even find my healing. But now, oh, I'm an advocate because I believe, I believe, and I see the benefits of talking to someone. And shout out to my coach, Focus James. Finding and talking to people that will really help you see a different perspective. So knowing that you're worth it, knowing that, for me, trusting that God is not going to put me in another situation, or God delivered me from the behaviors and the mindset to put myself in those situations, knowing that I'm healed and that I'm whole, that I don't have to go back to that. And just being open to love and finding love. And that's kind of what happened and how my fiance found me. I was open. I did it. I wasn't one of those, I didn't become bitter, thank God. So just trusting that God's got you, and the person that he has for you is going to feed into you, is going to pour into you. Levon does all of those things, and that's how I knew it was different. He wasn't calling me out my name. He was buying me flowers. He was, speaking over me, praying over me, and recognizing and understanding, those, because there were some counterfeits that even happened between, my husband, my fiance finding me, but just recognizing and trusting that God will give you the desires of your heart. Because that's one thing that I always knew. I always prayed and said, Lord, you're going to send me a husband that is a God-fearing man. You're going to send, me somebody that, is an entrepreneur. Like I was very specific. I was very specific with God. So I just want to encourage those women that, have been in those situations, or even those men that have been in those situations. Don't give up. Trust that God will send you someone, because he can. And just in the meantime, do what you have to do to find you and to love on you and to level up in your thinking, to level up and reach your goals. When Levon found me, I wasn't worried about a relationship. I told him that from the beginning. I'm open to talk to you because you seem like you're a cool dude. It just happened that, in 5 days I'll be his wife. But just be intentional about growing. Do not allow the enemy to put anything on you that goes against what God says and who God says you are. No, you have to believe that you are someone great. You have to affirm yourself. I started affirming myself. I started literally walking in who God called me to be. I'm not what my family or my, exes have said about me. I am not any of those things. And I decree and I declare that I will have X, Y, and Z. And literally manifesting and speaking those things over your life. Sometimes it's hard. At one point I found myself saying, I'm broken and I'm battered and I'm bruised, but it takes just as much strength, if not even more, to say, I'm healed, I'm whole, I am loved. God loves me. I am a conqueror. I will have X, Y, and Z. And if you have to do that every single day, multiple times a day, do it, because you're going to start finding yourself in a situation. You're going to start, like, if somebody calls your name and it's opposite of what you are, you're not even going to respond. And that's where I had to get. You say this about me, I don't even respond. And it wasn't always easy. I had to go through those emotions. I had to go through those issues, and I had to kind of, because even in those moments, God was testing you, because he's like, daughter, yeah, you know who you are, but you still got to deal with people, right? You still got to deal with people that hurt you, but know and have the confidence in yourself to know that you deserve everything that God says about you. You deserve everything, literally everything, and everything that God gives you in your heart, and the dreams and the aspirations and the visions and you can have that. And I just want to encourage you guys to not give up, and just, I know, trust me, I know sometimes it seems tedious because you want to stay right where you are, but the craziest thing to me, Sister Patty, is that when I did become transparent, and when I did open up and share my testimony, there were people that I didn't even know that went through certain things. I'm looking at them like, whoa, like people were literally coming to me saying, you helped me because you said this, I can now share this. I'm talking about women that are older, never shared their testimony with anyone. And here's little old me, and and people finding that release just from my testimony. And that's Victoria said it. It's not about me. My struggles and my traumatic experiences and everything that God took me through, it's not about Fatima. Literally, someone else needs to hear your story. And if you are afraid to share it, they won't be free. Their freedom literally is in your testimony. So that's what I can say. Find out who you are, love on you first, and then God can send love, whatever that looks like, as far as friendships, mentorships, sisterhood, brotherhood. Like, you have to know your worth. Let's literally find your worth and know who you are.
So we're gonna wrap things up because I'm gonna be I want to be cognizant of everyone's time because I appreciate you, and this is so awesome, for us to do. So in the last couple of minutes before I close out, what I want you guys to do is, well, Fatima already did it. I wanted you to look in the camera and really encourage someone and take them to the next step. So we're going to do that, but we're going to go to Victoria first, and Ryan, the gentleman, will be at last. So, and I want you just to look in the camera, and I want you to speak to someone in the camera who is going through exactly what you're going through, but you are the seasoned word that's going to be able to speak into their soul on today. Remember, as I told you guys, some plant, some water, but God does the increase. So speak as if you wanted someone to speak the same words unto you.
What I can say to you, whoever you are that is going through any traumatic experience, who's going through that season of, God, I don't understand why, I will say to you, continue to allow yourself to feel what you feel. Don't put yourself in a position where you feel guilty for what you feel, for what you're going through. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to go through it. Don't hide from it. Understand that what you've been through is a real thing. Understand that what you went through or what you're going through isn't your fault. Do not put blame on yourself. Understand that it was for a purpose. Even if God didn't reveal the purpose to you now, understand that it's for a reason. There is purpose in pain. And I just want you to understand that there is purpose in what you've gone through. And also understand that there are people out there who need to hear what you're going through. It was already stated. There's someone out there that needs to hear it. The only way I'm able to talk to you right now is being the one that was hurt. That's the only way I'm able to even say anything to you right now. So for you, you may not feel it now. You may be in that place of, God, I just don't understand, or God, this is just too much for me. God won't give you any more than you can bear. The reason why he allowed it to be is because he knew you could handle it. So I just admonish you to, again, allow yourself to feel what you feel. Keep yourself in the face of God. Allow him to help you. Trust that he can and that he will help you. And go talk to somebody. Don't sit in it. Go talk to somebody. Therapy is important. Go talk to somebody. Allow someone to mirror what you say. Allow someone to be able to speak back to you what you're saying so you can see yourself. Allow that to happen. And know that everything that you've gone through is for a purpose. And understand that it won't always be this way. Know that you will one day come out. You will one day look back at this moment and say, you know what? It was hard, but thank you, God, for bringing me out. Understand, please understand that it will get better. Understand that it won't always be this way. And you have people in your corner that will help you. You have people that you don't even know is praying for you that are praying for you. You don't even know it, but there are people interceding for you. So I just say, you know, allow yourself to feel it. Don't be afraid of it. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with God. And know that he can handle it. Know that he is with you. He said that he will never leave you nor forsake you. And that's the only way that you will recover. It's through God and therapy. But God. So yeah, I just say, you know, that's it. Just stay in God's face no matter what.
Amen. That is so awesome to stay in God's face. And some of you are making comments, and I'm going to ask you to put all the comments on the Teardrop Liquid Language of the Heart page so that we're able to get the comments and we're able to respond to some of you guys who are writing comments. Ryan, we're going to go to you now. And we're going to, you guys are just so awesome. You got me over here trying to hold back my tears or whatever. So you're just really ministering to the people in ways that you really just don't understand. So this is well needed. Before Ryan even starts, this is well needed. And as I said, as we started out, you would be surprised of the people who are functioning in the house of God and people who are just functioning in everyday life who are depressed, who's been sexually molested, who's been physically molested, emotionally, people in the house of God who's been living other lives and, switching back and forth with the mask, as Ryan said, they playing the games, the mask that we wear, going crazy because you're not sure of what mask you need to put on wherever you go, or getting to the point, because I've done it for years in the body of Christ, that you adjust your mask as you're walking up the steps, as you open the door. Better yet, you're not really feeling like you want to function in church that Sunday, but yet and still they call on you. So you're saying to yourself, now, God, this is not what I came here for today. I came here because I needed to be delivered. I came here because I need a word spoken to me. Why can't they see that? Or better yet, sitting here and saying, God, will anybody ever see the pain that lies on the inside of me? Is there anybody out there who has a spirit of discernment to know that I'm hurting right now? And even if you just touch my shoulder to show that there is some caring there, I believe that I'm going to make it. So I understand that. I understand showing up in church and, I'm just going to be transparent because I really don't care. But showing up in church and really being depressed because of what you're going through. Better yet, having people think that they know your story and what your experience, and they have no idea whatsoever. But they think that you're hurting because of them or because of something that they think may have been transpired or could possibly be going on in your life. And you're looking at them and say, oh, but if you only really knew, and if you really wanted to know, why didn't you just ask me? So I understand those pains, and I understand because Teardrops was birthed in the midst of all of the things that I was going through, things that people, if I would ever open my mouth and tell my story, would leave people's mouth open because it's not the thing that you think. So I think when we do these things and when we talk about deliverance, you're allowing people to be delivered. You're allowing people and you're giving them the strength and the push. Now you are the cheerleaders that's pushing someone and says, if you just push, that baby will come out. If you push, it will be all right. If you push, everything will be all right. So Ryan, I want you to look at everybody and I want you to encourage the people on today. Don't take your text, son. You got that tomorrow. But I want you to encourage the people today before we get ready to close.
I want to say to everyone who is dealing with depression and dealing with some kind of hurt, some kind of pain, that he just can't seem to get out. One of the scriptures that has become one of my favorite scriptures is he mends the brokenhearted and he bindeth up their wounds. It's in Psalms. He mends your broken heart. God is so able to mend your broken heart. He's so able to take those wounds that we carry around that are left untreated, that are left just pouring out, just open and just pouring everything out on the streets, if you will. God is so able to heal you. He's so able to deliver you, and he can heal you. Being in a place of depression It's not popular. It's not something that we like to talk about or even admit. But sometimes you just have to be able to say, you know what, Lord, I'm dealing with some stuff in here and I need you to help me. And I want to tell you that the way God delivered me from it, the way he healed me, the way he is still, even today, God is still healing me. He's still binding up my heart. He's still putting broken pieces of my heart back together again. God is so able, but there has to be a trust. There has to be a place of trust in you, not with your mouth, but with your heart, because we do so much talking in church and in our church lives. We do so much talking. Oh, I love God. Oh, I trust God. Oh, I do this. But Jesus said, you worship me with your lips, but your hearts are not even close. And so I want to say to you tonight that if your heart is broken, if you're going through a place mentally and emotionally where you're just in complete darkness, trust God. God is able to bring so much light into your life. He's able to heal you. He's able to deliver you. And he will send people your way that have been through what it is that you're going through. And they're not going to sit quietly by and say, oh, yeah, bro, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. They're going to say, I was there, and this is how I came through. I was there, and this is what God did to bring me out of it. So I want to tell you tonight, trust God with your whole heart, with everything that is within you, and allow him to, as I told my church recently, allow him to lay you on the operating table and put you back together again. He's so able, and he will do it if you just give him the opportunity to do it.
Awesome. That is just awesome. And I want to thank you, ladies and you gentlemen, for tonight. I want to thank you for all of the words that you have imparted. I want to thank you for the seeds that you planted. Some of you watered some of the seeds, but ultimately, you know that Christ has the increase, that he will do the increase on tonight. I just thank everyone for all of their words. And I just want to say to everyone that some of the things that we want to be mindful of it. Sometimes you have to look in your mirror and you have to declare that you are beautiful, you are bold, you are intelligent, you are smart, and you have to declare it. One thing I do in my house, I have mirrors everywhere. And on each mirror of my house, there are some words of affirmation that when I go to look in that mirror or when I pass that mirror, I have to look at those words because they're right where you look at yourself in the mirror. And I have to declare those words to myself. And my reason for doing that is because you constantly have to speak deliverance to yourself. You constantly have to speak to yourself and declare who you are and who God says that you are. So I want to tell everybody, this is a year that we really need to do self-care. The reason why God has placed us at this point of quietness is for us to deal with us, not for us to deal with everything else, for us to have some quiet time alone, for God to speak to us, for God to take us to the next level. But he first has to do, as Ryan said, some open heart surgery on us. And God has to take out everything that's infected in us. And he has to look at our organs that were not functioning in the way that he has made them to function. And he has to repair some of them. He has to mend some of them. And he has to put things back together. The point of mending is to keep it to a place that is going to be whole until healing does come. So I want to speak into the atmosphere to all the listeners on today to let you know that God has something special that's in store for you. God has a point and a place that he wants to take you to, but God desires for you to be open. He desires for you to come to him. He desires for you to tell them, God, my heart is mended. I'm broken. I have a spirit of unforgiveness is on the inside of me, God, and only you can heal me. Only you that can touch me. Only you that can cleanse me. So God, I may need to step back from where I'm at and step back from the people that I'm in so that you can deal with me before I'm able to deal with everyone else. So that's what I want to leave, and that's what I want to deposit into everyone on today. Teardrops Liquid Language of Heart. We're about becoming a better self, stronger through the power of positivity, speaking positive over yourself so you can release the pain of your past and the fear of your future. We want you to understand that the things that you have encountered in your life, in your past life, it doesn't declare who you are. What it was part of the words that you need to put together to tell the story of your life. So I thank everyone for listening. Once again, any comments that you have, I want you to go to my Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart face page, and I want you to drop all your comments with reference to all of the facilitators on this afternoon or this evening. And I want you just to give all of these ladies and these men just an applaud on today. Yeah. Awesome job they have done. And I want to speak to you guys and let you know that God has something greater. This is only the beginning. Your eyes have not seen the greatness that God has you. You can't even imagine the audience that God is going to bring you in front of. There is deliverance in your mouth for someone. And God is going to use your mouth, your vocal cords, and God is going to allow you to speak life. Because whether we realize it or anything, this world stands in the point to hear life. We don't need to hear death any longer. We have experienced that for 365 plus days. Now we need to hear life. So God is using and he's raising up a generation that's not afraid to tell their story. That's not afraid of what people are going to say, but has a sincere desire of love for their brothers and their sisters. I want to see you healed. I want to see you delivered. I want to see you be made whole. I want to see you walk. Here, let me connect with you. Let me walk this journey with you. Let me help you to fulfill the desires that you have so that you can walk effectively in the purpose that God has designed for your life. I want everybody to know that we're starting a new YouTube. So go to my YouTube page and subscribe, like, share, do all of that good stuff out there. And we'll be coming back to you soon with our next segment of Tea and Talk. And once again, I want to say thank you. You guys are so sweet. And each one of you have deposited into my life in a different way. I think you're just awesome. So I can go on and say words about you that I've looked at you, especially Victoria. I've been watching you all of your life, in your good and in your bad. And what I can say, God has done great things with you. You are a beautiful young lady. You are lovely. And God has more in store for you. And Fatima, I love you. You know I love you. And to see what you've come from to where you go, to see all the mess in between, and now you're about to walk down the aisle, girl, I can cry for you. So to see how you function and how you were broken and God put you back together, something I've seen with my own eyes. I didn't need anybody to tell me. I was there when you were going through it. And the amazement of what God has done for you is just simply awesome. And Ryan, my son, what can I say about you? I love you to death. To know that all that you encounter, but yet and still you're the pastor that's leading people. A pastor that's not afraid to show that you've been hurt, you've been wounded, you've been depressed. A pastor that can open up to let somebody know that, hey, I once was there, but let me tell you how I got out. That's the best kind of preaching there is. There's a lot of people that have a gift of being an orator, but there's some people who have experienced some things that they said. And that's just better. So I thank you guys. I encourage you guys. Live on. Let God do what he needs to do to you. And to the audience on today, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for just listening in to Perseverance Beyond the Odd. We love you and have a great rest of the evening. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.